Good morning. Are you ready for another round of celebrating? That is, if you ever stopped celebrating. This is a live look from Union Station. We are live along the Super Bowl parade route. As you can see, crowds are already lined up, jockeying for a great view. Now, the parade doesn't start for another 3 hours. However, people have been camped out all across the area for hours to secure their spots. We're there, we're live, ready for the action. Good morning. This is Open Mics with Dr. Stites. I'm not Dr. Stites. I'm Alexis Del Cid, filling in for Dr. Stites today. And on this Valentine's Day, we're talking about the mind-body connection when it comes to love and your health, and heartbreak and your health. I'm here with two of our favorite guests. We have Dr. Travis Love, cardiologist, and Dr. Greg Nawalnik, a psychologist who's breaking it all down for us. And of course, we're talking about as well the Super Bowl, the euphoria, what a third Super Bowl win means for the collective well-being of the hearts and minds of Kansas City, the whole community. I want to start, though, with Alan Van Zant, who is along the route right now. Alan, where are you, and how is parking?
Well, hi there, Alexis. You can certainly see we are in the heart of the Chiefs Kingdom this morning as we're getting ready for the Super Bowl victory parade and celebration. And to give you an idea of where we are, we're right outside the Westin Hotel here, and you can see Union Station behind me here, where it all will wrap up today after the parade, which begins at 11 a.m. The parade starts at 6th and Grand downtown. It will come south through to Pershing Road and then wrap up right here at Union Station. And again, it's almost surreal to say, but this is back-to-back championships for the Chiefs, 3 in 5 years. And so I think with the Royals winning in 2015 and then now 3 Super Bowl celebrations, the city's got it figured out on how to celebrate big championships. So we weren't the first to the party this morning. You can see the crowd here is built up pretty good, but there were people here camped out overnight. They set up some tents right along the parade route. I would say brave, cool temperatures. It's not the bitter cold that we have had for the past 2 Super Bowl celebrations. It's already about 33 degrees here in Kansas City, warming up to 60 today. So it is going to be a beautiful, cloudless day to celebrate another Chiefs championship. Now, going back to last year, we've got video of last year's parade. You'll remember you could see your breath. It was teens, low 20s as things kicked off in the morning. It was cold out here, but I've just got the light jacket on now. I had a coat earlier this morning. We were here at 6 o'clock to stake our claim to some spot here, but really it's going to be a very comfortable day for this parade, again, that starts 3 hours yet from now. Now, why are we here as the University of Kansas Health System, you might ask? Well, more than being emotionally involved like everyone as part of the Chiefs Kingdom, we are the official healthcare provider to the Chiefs, and our physicians will be a part of the parade. You can see last year now, our physicians celebrating along with the team. We'll be keeping an eye on our docs as they roll down the parade route, and we really want to shout out to them. That being such an integral part of the team. We have heard Chiefs leadership on so many occasions say that their partnership with the University of Kansas Health System and our physicians give the team a competitive advantage over other teams. So here are our 5 physicians. They are J.P. Darsh, starting on the left, Brian Vopat, Paul Schreppel, Scott Mullen, and Luke Thompson, our 5 physicians that we will be looking forward to seeing on the parade route that again begins at 11 a.m. They were a part of the team in Las Vegas as they beat the San Francisco 49ers 25-22 in overtime. And I think of note also is that we have a clinic right at the Truman Sports Complex, right next door to GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, and that is where the players get their care, that is where the staff gets their care, and that is where you can get your care as well. It is an open clinic, open to everyone, and so it's pretty special to be able to say that your doctor is the same doctor that cares for Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the rest of the Chiefs. And so we are so glad to be a part of this partnership with the Kansas City Chiefs and a part of this amazing celebration here at Union Station. Again, it's a full day of fun. The parade starts at 11, and then the celebration here behind, where players and staff and others will be talking to the crowd. And for many of the million or so people who might come today, they may not have ever been to a Chiefs game, but they're certainly part of the Chiefs kingdom here today. And, you know, I say a million, it might even be more. For the last couple celebrations, they estimate between 800,000 to 1 million people have come to the games, or come to the celebrations, but with temperatures expected to get up towards 60 today, feeling great out here, I bet we're going to see even more, Alexis.
Speaking of, Alan, we have to ask, any word on the ground if Taylor Swift is planning on being here?
I knew you were going to go there, and no, she is not going to make an appearance here today. She has a concert in Australia on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I saw that her plane left from LA last night, was stopping in Hawaii on its way to Melbourne, Australia. So she is not going to be here today. But frankly, I think part of the security team for the parade probably pretty happy about that, as all the extra considerations they would have had to take care of, knowing that Taylor Swift would be in the crowd in addition to all their favorite superstars with the Chiefs. But you can see that's not going to slow down people from showing up today, that Taylor
absolutely.
Swift is not here.
Alan, thank you so
You're
much. Have
missing
a
out.
great time. Have a great time out there.
It's going to be a fun day today.
It
A
is.
great celebration today. Thank you, Alexis.
Thanks, Alan. And back here in the studio, you know, Dr. Love, you made a good point. You don't necessarily want to see your boyfriend in the state some of the players might be in by the end of the day. So it might be good that Taylor Swift doesn't see Travis, however he's going to be in about 12 hours from now. Back here in the studio, I am with two doctors representing the heart and the mind, cardiology and psychology. Dr. Travis Love is a cardiologist. Dr. Greg Nawalnik is a clinical psychologist. Both work here at the health system. We adore them. They're friends of the show. So want to talk about the Super Bowl. Before we get to, we were going to do a program on heartbreak and love and the heart, and then we got to talk about the Super Bowl, though. That has effects on the heart. We were talking to you, Dr. Love, earlier in the week, and you said even when you woke up the morning of the playoff game, your heart was pounding all day.
Yeah, I feel like all through the playoffs it's felt that way, and certainly that way for the five and a half, 6 hours there before the Super Bowl and through the Super Bowl. So yeah, absolutely, your heart can feel the effects of this. You can have increased heart rates and blood pressure, and for people who have health conditions, they need to be really cognizant of that and make sure they're taking their medications and they're kind of aware of any symptoms that they could experience.
Do you ever see more patients come in after a huge game because their ticker just couldn't take it?
Yeah, I don't know quite about that. You know, every once in a while we'll get a patient who says they get some chest discomfort that they noticed during a Chiefs game, and you see them on a Monday or something like that. But I don't know if it's a real uptick in new patients or patients coming to the hospital.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
That's
it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
Dr. Nawalnik, the games are so emotional. Being a fan is such an emotional experience. When a team loses, for example, as a psychologist, you brace yourself if it's a big game for like a sadness to cast upon the community.
Yeah, welcome to being a Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah, you're a Cleveland Browns fan?
Yeah, until their season ends, and then I turn over to the Chiefs.
Right.
But yeah, know plenty about loss and pain and hurt. So yeah.
What is it about the collective experience? Because as you know, I've been driving around, and I'm sure other people can relate, driving around the city feeling so proud. But like, I didn't block any tackles or throw any footballs. Yeah. Why do we feel this collective euphoria as a city?
Well, so there's a lot of different factors that come into sports fandom, and you know, talking about having like an increased heart rate during the game, it's because there's these things in our brain called mirror neurons, and so essentially it's like you're watching the game and your brain almost puts you in the game. So it's like you feel every bit of that play as it's going down. And when you look at how football is broken down, it's kind of the perfect storm for almost addictive potential, because there's that like excitement of the play, and then everybody regroups, and then they line up again. There's that frozen moment of potential where anything can happen. It can be, you can score a touchdown literally on any play, either side of the ball. Like what sport gives you that?
I'm feeling it now with you talking about it like that.
I'm exciting. What can I say? But so that investment, and then also we just have something that we see in a lot of different aspects of life: the in-group versus out-group mentality. And so, when we think about the more positive ways, sports fandom comes into play. That's the greatest thing ever to feel like, you hear everybody around town or even watching the game at halftime say, we got to get it together.
We do. Yes.
I'm sorry, Jack. Are you going to suit up? You're going to head in there? Good. Go live those glory days. Go set them straight. Tell the greatest quarterback possibly ever to play what he's messing up out there. But it is that sense that we're part of the team, and it's why we love sports so much. Is that it's the great leveler. It doesn't matter if you're major white collar executive, or if you're a blue collar, hardworking, low income person, you're united, you're equal. And I think that, after the game, you saw the Power and Light, people are still hanging out hours after the game. They didn't want to go home because they just made the best friend ever. Some schmuck that they're never going to see again. But for that moment, that night, they're sharing this collective experience that is so euphoric, it is so exciting, and that they had nothing to do with it. But still, they feel like they did, and just because they're wearing the red and gold, and it's exciting, and I don't want to take any air out of it.
Well, there are a lot of superstitious people that think they had a lot to do with it. Like every time my friend Angelo left the room, the Chiefs played well, so we kept banishing him to the stairwell.
There it is.
Say, go to the stairwell, and then they'd do a great play. So he had to peek around the corner for the last play. So you never know. We might have helped them win.
Angelo, thank you for pulling it together. Yeah,
he sacrificed his seat on the couch.
Yeah, that magical thinking is really a part of it.
Well, you mentioned things released in your brain. Can you say again what you were talking about? Because there's something's happening in the brain.
It's not things released. It's just part of the brain called mirror neurons.
Okay.
They're essentially responsible for a lot of different things. They monitor what's going on in your body. It's why deep breathing is effective as a coping skill, because it's monitoring how you're breathing and are you calm, or are you excited. And then it also it's the reason that if I'm walking down the street and you're coming the other way and I smile at you, you'll, whatever your mood is, you'll like kind of feel almost a pull to smile back.
Oh, yeah.
It's a strange thing, and it's part of how we socialize just as animals. And so mirror neurons give us the sense that we are in the game, that we have some investment, some stake. So
it's a beautiful feeling, and friends are made. Strangers, I mean, Alan's going to be best friends with someone he never met before by the end of this parade, because everybody loves everybody at the parades.
Right.
When we're talking about love, I got to go to Dr. Love, which, let's face it, you have the best name ever for a cardiologist on Valentine's Day.
Thanks.
When we talk about romance and heartbreak and things that fill your heart, there is a physical response to that happens in your body. And there's a reason why there are so many songs and movies and books and musicals about love and heartbreak, because we've all experienced it. It turns out broken heart syndrome is a real medical diagnosis. First broken heart you ever had?
Of course I do. The first one and the last one.
How old were you?
17.
What was his name?
Brian.
It could be argued heartbreak is the one universal human experience, whether it's a bad breakup,
probably 22, 23 years old, it happened in college,
or the loss of a loved one.
I was really heartbroken when my mom passed away.
We all know that gut punch that leaves you feeling like you may never be right again. And Dr. Travis Love says in some cases, a true broken heart can have devastating consequences.
It can be quite traumatic, and people will end up in the ICU with this, and people can even die from this.
The University of Kansas Health System cardiologist says broken heart syndrome is real. The more technical name for it, stress cardiomyopathy.
Most of these patients present like people who are actually having heart attacks, so chest pain, shortness of breath. A lot of the data that we find on these patients, their EKGs and their cardiac enzymes, are very similar to heart attack patients.
Most of the time, Dr. Love, and yes, that is his real name, says broken heart syndrome is treatable and reversible with medications and time. So it turns out time heals a broken heart is not just an expression either. Doctors say most of the documented cases of broken heart syndrome are in women around the age of 65, which Dr. Love, that actually surprised me because I would think broken heart syndrome, many people experience their first heartbreak when they're teens or in their 20s. Why are women who are in their 60s more vulnerable to this?
Yeah, that's a great point, and the answer is we don't know. We just don't have a lot of understanding of why this happens and why it happens more commonly in postmenopausal women, because that's really the 90% of people who get this stress cardiomyopathy. So we don't know.
So stress cardiomyopathy is the medical word for broken heart syndrome.
It's called broken heart syndrome too,
Right.
but yeah, stress cardiomyopathy, because it can also happen in times of physical stress. You can be in the ICU, sick from maybe having had a stroke and develop it. But yes, stress cardiomyopathy, broken heart syndrome.
How does stress affect the cardiovascular system?
Well, it absolutely can affect the cardiovascular system. I mean, like we talked about with watching the Chiefs game and increased heart rate, you get these increase in catecholamines, these neurotransmitters that kind of rev your body up, this fight or flight response, and all of those things can have an effect on the cardiovascular system. So, yeah, it absolutely does.
How is that different than when you're in love and you're feeling this swell of love and euphoria, like after the game, or when you're newly in love with someone? Are catecholamines still released?
I don't. You'd have to ask the expert over here about
mean,
being
does that
in love
help?
and catecholamines, but.
Does that help the cardiovascular system at all?
I don't know if it helps it. I think if you're somebody who is comforted by being in a relationship and stuff, I can see how that could help make you feel better, maybe lower blood pressure and those sorts of things because you're calm and relaxed. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it hurts the first couple dates when you're stressed and anxious. I don't know.
So if you're eating spaghetti or barbecue on a first date, that's very stressful.
Yeah, it's very stressful.
You have to choose wisely when
Maybe
you're on your first date.
a bad date idea.
You guys remember that? I remember going back to first dates. So, Dr. Nawalnik, how does then love influence our mental well-being?
I mean, it's, again, so varied. Everybody wants it to boil down to one simple thing. But, you know, the reality is I think it's going to start with an individual's attachment style. And so for some people, the experience of love is almost something that they expect. It's like, you know, they grew up in a very nurturing, supportive household. They've had, you know, positive experiences when they go out and engage with other people. Relationships tend to go well for them. And even when the person's not there with them, they still feel secure that, you know, they might be thinking about me. They're not certainly out doing something terrible. And so that calm, that presence that you get with love can be very, you know, edifying, helps you kind of keep going. For other people, someone that has a more anxious attachment, or maybe avoidant attachment style, the idea of love looks very different. Instead of it being a more measured experience, you're seeing jagged spikes and peaks and valleys in terms of how they feel about it. You know, a first date, they may blow it up, and they go into it, they're so anxious. But then as they're going through the evening, they're like, you know what, this isn't that bad. I had a good time. They go home and they're like, that was the greatest date I've ever had in my life. You know? Now, is that true or not? Who knows? But it's one tiny little sample size that you're going to base this interaction on. And so they get these really super high expectations and hopes. But then as the relationship progresses, they start to, you know, those past experiences, if they didn't grow up in a very supportive environment or they've had really toxic, damaging relationships in the past, that calm almost becomes an alarm for them. And so they start to panic and like, I gotta get out of this, I gotta flee, or they start to misperceive, you know, if somebody doesn't call at a time they said, that's it, this is over. And so it's this alternating extremes of like, you know, idealization and devaluation that you can see where love becomes this just rocky roller coaster ride and the poor other individual is just kind of hanging on for dear life. Like, I was really enjoying this, but I can't do this, you know. So it's such a varied experience of what love is to a different person.
Are there specific hormones that are released when you're feeling love?
So there's one that, I mean, you know, when you look at psychological research around love, there's so many split opinions. But when you think about neurotransmitters, oxytocin is the one that's going to get the most. You know,
oxytocin.
Yeah, oxytocin. It's basically the neurochemical that gets released from physical touch. You know, and it can be from a massage. You know, if somebody comes up that you don't know behind you and kind of is rubbing your shoulders, you get that kind of just dump of like, oh, that feels nice.
Right.
Or you ever notice when you scratch your head, it doesn't feel as great that somebody else comes scratch your head?
It feels so good.
That's the difference of oxytocin being released in your bloodstream that makes it feel that much better. And so, that's one, but then also just the typical reward center, the dopamine response, serotonin, all these things are released in different ways, and they all contribute to that kind of euphoric sense of love that we get.
We were talking about the cardiovascular benefits to being in love, lowering of the blood pressure if someone calms you. I mean, you can even have, I've heard people say when they have a pet at home, that lowers their blood pressure, just feeling that unconditional calm. Do you ever recommend to people to get out more, make connections, maybe get a pet, helps your blood pressure?
I stay out of that. That's his department. I don't, but I do try to encourage people to exercise and do those sorts of things. But yeah, I try.
You're not going to get into their relationship.
Yeah, I don't say, hey, go find a girlfriend.
But can it contribute to a healthier heart to have that companion?
I don't know if it can contribute to a healthier heart in a direct way, but I do think that there's something to having a companion that's looking out for you. You want to do better for them. You may be more likely to look out for your own health. Certainly, they may be helping you look out for your health. And so I do think that there's benefit to having companionship in your overall heart health, but I'm not sure how direct it is.
Right. Anecdotal.
Yeah,
evidence
just like you have a support system, or you want to do better because you're in a relationship. That sort of thing.
So, Dr. Nawalnik, when you see people who are deeply lonely, does that affect the nervous system? Are there mental health issues associated with loneliness or lack of a connection or love?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the kind of prime factors of depression is, when we're not socially engaged, we are, as a default, social animals. And so when somebody is lonely, and to be clear, there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. You can be alone and it's by choice, and you're not going to see the same psychological detriment or emotional hurt and heartache that you will somebody that so desperately desires the connection, and whether it be because of avoidant fear or because of just it's not in the cards for them at this time, that loneliness, that's the bad side of the coin, and that's where we do see potential for depressive symptom spikes, and they start to isolate, they start to reduce how often they're going to go out and expose themselves to the risk of heartache.
Is love a drug? I've heard this in songs. I've heard people say it. Does the body respond to love like a drug?
I think by the literal definition of a drug, no.
Right.
But in terms of...
Does the brain respond in a way?
Yeah, I mean, our brain responds to everything that happens in a day. I mean, like you're driving here, your brain responded to every single other person on the road. It's... The reality is that as far as is it a drug, that's a... it's a dramatic statement that, sure, it does affect us, and it can we can see, not necessarily, I don't want to say an addictive potential, but there are people that do get hooked on love, and I think
or love bombing.
Well, sure, you can love bomb someone, but
and that's when you just shower them with attention right out of the gate, and then you just can't sustain that.
Nope. I hope not. And also, some people, most people don't want that. There's all things in moderation is a great saying, and I think that what we're seeing now with social media is such an evolution, I think, in terms of what love is. And I think that, the depth and richness of connection, when we see so many people that are on, all the socials and all the dating apps, it used to be that I'd have to get your phone number and we'd have to make a plan and get together and go somewhere. Now it's, you up.
Yeah.
and by that, not even spelling out you, it's just the letter U up, maybe a question
mark. We've gone backwards.
Yeah, and I think that with that, when we think about what comprises love, there's an emotional, there is the physical piece. I mean, we can't diminish that. That infatuation is kind of the groundwork that allows us or encourages us to put in the effort. The love bombs. It happens because we have that physical sensation that's like, wow, like I like the way you make me feel. And then it turns into, there's then the cognition around commitment. That like, all right, I'm going to actively choose to not be with anybody else. You're the person I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. Let's do it. And then there's the long-term evolutionary progenic, thing of like looking to procreate.
Right.
So all these things are factored in, but now we've introduced technology in a way that all the traditions are kind of being upended, and we're seeing a lot of different changes. And I think that we're seeing a lot of emotional reactivity coming into the room, where you didn't like my post, or you didn't put me, you're not sharing me out there. Like, why aren't you posting me?
So many weird variables.
Yeah, there's a
with
lot of
social
different
media.
confounds right now that haven't always
Stressful.
been part of the game, and it's just, very stressful.
We love when you send in your questions, and if you're feeling brave today, feel free to share a love story or a story about heartbreak if you want to. You can use the chat function on Facebook, YouTube, the X platform, or you can email the Medical News Network right now. The links are there on your screen. And before we get to those community questions, we want to join Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control here at the health system with the COVID count.
Yeah, I would like to say first, though, I think the flip side of that, having Dr. Love, I'm just happy my last name isn't syphilis. So I think there are flip sides to those last names
that would
too.
be a rough
Right?
last
Some are
name.
good, like Dr. Love. Having the last name syphilis probably would not be a good.
For an infectious disease specialist,
Yeah.
though,
Right.
maybe you'd be the guy that you know your stuff.
Penicillin wouldn't be bad.
You'd still want to stay away. That's right. That probably wouldn't be too bad. So our COVID count this week has stayed steady at 24 active cases in the hospital. Still a couple people with severe illness being in the ICU and on the ventilator as well. So
I want to talk to you about some new guidelines that might be coming out involving the CDC's COVID isolation guidelines. This was in the Washington Post that got the scoop yesterday. They cited unnamed sources inside the CDC. So currently, if you test positive, the CDC says you're supposed to isolate for 5 days. According to this report in the Washington Post, the CDC could change that to isolating for only 24 hours after your fever breaks. So Dr. Hawkinson, if your fever goes away, you just would wait one full day and then stop isolating. Do you think that's a smart change if it happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, this is a scoop, just as you said. If there are changes made, it doesn't sound like it will be before April, so we are still waiting. I still do think that is dangerous. The best evidence we continue to have is that whether you are unvaccinated or vaccinated, certainly we know that you have the highest viral loads, those 1 to 2 days prior to symptoms starting, and those 1 to 2 days after symptoms starting as well. So, the CDC did stress, or in one of the articles they did stress, that this does not mean that COVID is any less dangerous. This means that overall the chances of severe illness or the impacts are less on a population level. We still know that there are those certain aspects, demographics of the population that still will have risk for severe disease. But again, getting vaccinated, being up to date with your vaccination, having a plan if you're positive, and getting on those antivirals are all going to help reduce that chance that you are going to the hospital. CDC in some of those articles did cite just the fact that there are considerations. Number one, it is difficult for people to take off work or to find childcare. We also know that probably in real life circumstances, many people are not adhering to the guidance of staying home for 5 days in isolation and then wearing a mask for those next 5 days, for a total of 10 days from when your symptoms first started anyway. So we will wait and see what they say. I would still encourage people that, if you do have if you are positive, I think it's still going to be important to isolate if you can. Stay inside, and then also continue to wear a mask if you can. But I think this is interesting news, and we'll just see what the final recommendations are.
Okay, Dr. Hawkinson, thank you. Thank you for that insight. Want to check in with what the community is asking now when it comes to love and heartbreak and the heart. We have a question from Betty. Betty's got an interesting question. Why do you think that we associate love with the heart? What's your take on that? I know there's not a scientific answer to this, but
So, when we mean the heart, I think it's just differentiating from our mind and our feelings. And so I think heart is kind of the bucket in which that falls. I don't know if we want to talk about the shape of the heart and where that comes from, but it's actually meant to represent the posterior of a female.
Interesting. Okay, that's love for some guys. It's an interesting twist on Betty's
That's
question.
a classic. That's not me. I didn't do it.
So You Up has been around for a long time.
You Up goes way back. Thou Risen?
Good grief. Okay, guys. John wants to know, this is a medical question, what are butterflies in the stomach? Can you answer that? I know you're a cardiologist, but why do we feel butterflies? What's happening?
You got the wrong guy. I don't know
Did you
why
get a gastrointestinal
I think I would ask Dr. Nawalnik here.
So it's it's around anxiety. You know, it's the same. So when oxytocin gets released, it's the same initial process. It's the hypothalamus triggering the pituitary gland to release the chemical, and so.
And that makes your stomach flutter?
Yeah, because it's that you're nervous. You know, I mean, if you're going to be honest, in the initial phases, that infatuous phase of love, there's a lot of nervousness there because it's not certain, and there's excitement, and it's and to be clear, anxiety and excitement are physiologically very similar, and so you're going to have a lot of the same sensations. But that's really what it is. So there are no butterflies trapped in there, I hope. It's just the sensation of the same way, like if you're about to get on a roller coaster, you're going to feel the same butterflies. Yeah, they're just a little different.
Sheila has a question. She writes, when I was a teenager and I had a new crush, I always lost my appetite. Why? That actually would happen to me too. When I had a crush on Justin Arnold in 7th grade, I could not eat lunch whenever I saw him. My appetite vanished.
Justin, what choices did you make?
So why is that?
Working out.
Why do we lose our appetites?
Same thing.
Anxiety?
It's that anxiety, yeah.
Exactly.
It's the rush.
Is there a scientific definition of love? This is what Ashley wants to know. How do you measure love and heartbreak?
I don't know.
You know how to measure real stress and cardiomyopathy.
Just the heart. Yeah, that's what I.
And is there a scientific definition that can define between love, infatuation, or something unhealthy?
So I think that if love is just a deeper level of infatuation. I mean, there's infatuation is sort of the doorway to the house of love.
Okay.
So you really, I mean, and to be clear, there are several different types of love. You know, there's like the love between a parent and a child. There's a love between peers, friends, sports fans. You know, sharing their love. And a pet, you know, obviously all these loves very different. You know, it's like you want to love your pets, but don't love your pets.
Right.
So, you know, there's not a specific clinical definition of love. The best thing I can say is you know it when you're in it.
When it comes to some final thoughts on the topic of love and the heart and the mind, Dr. Nawalnik, what do you want people to know as they wake up on Valentine's Day? This is a big emotional day. Got the Chiefs parade, you got a lot of roller coasters of emotions with some people hoping for Valentine's, some people going on dates for the first time. Yeah. What do you tell people?
Well, so number one, I think that things like Valentine's Day sometimes can put a lot of pressure on relationships. Let's not make it a one-day thing that did you get it right or not, or we call each other, what'd you get, or what'd you, it's not about that. Let's think of it as just a reminder to do the things that we want to do with the people that we want to do it with. And if you're in a relationship that isn't fulfilling you, that you kind of wake up today, you've dreaded today for maybe a couple weeks, knowing that it wasn't going to be everything you wanted it to be, then take that as a sign and take care of yourself. Maybe explore another option, get out of this relationship, because, you know, to quote the great Christmas movie, love actually is all around us. And while you're in this relationship, oh, that's one of the best.
Yeah.
But while you're in this relationship that isn't feeding your soul, that isn't taking care of you, you might be blocking yourself off to someone that you really could find a fabulous mutual love with.
That's great advice. And Dr. Love, when it comes to just the sheer excitement of today, people are going to be out. They're going to be out all day. The weather's great. They might be having many beverages. So what do you tell people as a doctor on how to make sure they stay healthy and they don't wind up in the ER with a with a heart flutter or something.
Yeah, so enjoy the day. I mean, this is an unbelievable day for us. I mean, this is such a big deal to have back-to-back Super Bowls and doing the parade. But from a heart standpoint, from a health standpoint, take your medications, please, in the morning. Take them in the evening when you get home. If you're going to have some beverages, nothing wrong with that, but just please try to do so in moderation. If you have chest pain, if you're having any issues, you know, we're here. We're open.
Right.
So,
24 hours. And whatever you do, get a safe ride home.
yeah. For sure.
Always can do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We know that you both have patients to see and work to do. We appreciate your time. Thank you to everyone for watching. Dr. Stites will be back here next week, and then we'll see you back here tomorrow, again, for All Things Heart. Have a great day. Misdiagnosed for years, stuck on oxygen with no answers, until she came here to the University of Kansas Health System. I'm Alexis Del Cid. On the next All Things Heart, meet the patient and the doctor who she says gave her life back.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.